Hello, David Hume here. The title of this video will be Predicting the Future with David Hume on Metaculus. Metaculus is a website that allows you to, it's a prediction aggregator. It's not a prediction market in the sense that you're not really the element of competition is less emphasized here because it largely rewards making the right predictions, and I mean, in a prediction market, if you make the right prediction, that means someone has to make the wrong decision. So in order to make money, or in order to get points or whatever, other people have to be wrong. But I don't know how to entirely describe it, but I guess that's a brief description of the contrast between a prediction market and Metaculus. Well, of course, by posting a video with me using this website, I'm essentially trying to promote it, and hopefully you may find this website to at least fulfill some sort of psychological need, or at least it could tell you what people think who are into making predictions, tell you about whether certain events would happen or not. But in this video, I will be going through some of my own predictions and discussing them briefly. Hopefully this video would be like 30 minutes from this point. I want to adjust the volume down for that. Hopefully this video will be about 30 minutes long. And before we get into that, I'll try to be brief about the sort of paradigm, my sort of mentality, mindset on making predictions, or on my basic worldview itself. Yes. First of all, I am a follower. I consider myself to be a disciple of the great prophet Robert Gordon. He's an economist at Northwestern University. I don't know if it says that here, and he's famous for making techno-pessimist bets. Here's a title of an expose of a profile of Robert Gordon, featuring an interview with him with Timothy B. Lee. The title is, "This expert thinks that robots aren't going to destroy many jobs, and that's a problem." Well, of course, ceteris paribus, let's say that you have a certain job, and there's this specialized robot that's able to replace you. Well, that would be bad for you, but what if that happens on a macroeconomics, on a mass scale, where it replaces many other jobs? It could conceivably be bad depending on the distribution of capital, but it would be pretty nice if there are many tasks many productive tasks that can be automated, because you need less labor in order to produce a certain quantity of goods. If factory work could be automated, you don't need to pay for labor, and that labor could be, well, if labor is a finite resource, it could be deployed elsewhere in the economy. But you don't have to pay for certain things. If you don't have to pay people to make hamburgers, presumably it could be cheaper, but that sort of depends on people's market power and who owns the robots and things like that. But if you want technological progress, technological growth, you kind of want stuff to be automated. He's talking about the Amazon warehouse, self-driving cars. Is there some sort of bit that I kind of want you to know? He predicts, I don't see any sign that robots in the works that will count pills at the back of Walgreens or CVS pharmacies, not on the horizon. Right now, I think this article was published in 2017. Robots have trouble standing up without falling over. So based on the ability of robots, you're not going to have many major technological advances. The thing is that, consider self-driving cars, because that is what I think that's an archetype of a type of robot. Because what is a self-driving car? What is driving? Driving requires you to at least identify hazards in the environment in real time. It allows you to interpret social signals. A self-driving car not only interprets sensory data, it has to act within a certain environment. It has to act with human beings. It cannot be walled off. It cannot be siphoned off. So if self-driving cars do exist, they have to interact in the human social sphere at a really high level, so it would not hurt people, so it would not destroy property. And that requires a high level of technological competence. in their abilities and a high degree of development that, well, obviously, since very few people have seen self-driving cars, they're probably in Phoenix. They're in Phoenix, and they're in They're in San Francisco. They're very rare, and they haven't been validated elsewhere. There are many obstacles to prevent them from being widely deployed. And I don't want to go into like an overview with like futurism here, but with another person, Rodney Brooks. I mean, this sort of exercise will be, yeah, here's his blog. This sort of exercise will be like his data predictions he provides for various things. He didn't approve any comments, but essentially, the brief introduction here is that Rodney Brooks, ever since in January 1st, 2018, he started making a bunch of predictions as a way to counteract the hype for self-driving cars, AI, and robots. There was AI hype in 2018, and essentially he said he provided overview of changes this year, self-driving cars. He only talks, I mean, I can't, this is about my predictions, not about his predictions, but this is largely a similar exercise. So he made all these predictions in 2018, and so far he has a good track record, which actually, since he's making pessimistic predictions, like certain things won't manifest, like we won't have self-driving cars at an early date, like let's say 2035 in all of Greenwich, all the streets of Greenwich Village, and some city in Connecticut. In Cambridgeport, Massachusetts, or in Greenwich Village in New York City, which is in Manhattan Island. Since he says that you're not going to have self-driving cars robo-taxis operating in all the streets by this time. He said he put a caveat unless human drivers are banned there. Since you're not going to see that, that's like a sort of way of deflating the hype, because it is very hard to operate a self-driving car in a populated neighborhood with many human actors. A high degree of competence is needed. So by predicting that certain things won't happen at a particular time, we could deflate the hype. We could inject realistic expectations. Data predictions. Here's the OG one, what do you call it? Maybe you could briefly read through this. I've been pouring cold water to consider the current hype around artificial intelligence and machine learning. I don't consider him a technical realist. He'll be 95 years old in 2050, and 2018 plus 32 years is 2018 plus 32 years is 2050, and he says it's a power of 2. My order. It always takes a lot longer. And essentially, another final rant is that I hate this subreddit. I think the sort of motto here, the sort of assumption, the sort of definitive assumption with futurism or futurology requires a miracle. It requires the suspension of Murphy's Law. This is probably not going to happen. Read this headline. Do you think that this will happen? Of course, if you want to make a bet, if you want to make a precise prediction, you have to define what an artist's job is, and then you have to identify how many artist jobs are, how many people are employed in artist jobs right now in January 15th, 2024, and then in January 15th, 2027. If only 10% of those people are employed, then that prediction would be correct. But I'm not really competent in AI. I've seen the things there. Well, anyway, I hope that's an introduction. I went into a rant. I wasn't able to go over stuff, what Rodney Brooks and what Robert Gordon said. But anyway, here are some of the predictions, and I hope this could be quick, though. I only give it a 1% chance, while the community gives it a 30% chance. This is largely one of the 5 components in Gary Marx's bet. that AI would be able to do no more than 2 of the 5 tasks he has designated. 1, 2. Well, I bet 10% that Gary Marcus would lose the proposed bet with Elon Musk. I don't think Gary Marcus and Elon Musk have formalized any betting conditions. But while the community bet 94%, I'm betting 10%. I'll only bet 19%. Maybe I may sort of readjust it. I didn't put anything there. So will AI be able to work as a competent cook in an arbitrary kitchen for 2030? What does an arbitrary kitchen mean? What does a competent cook mean? But I don't know. But arbitrary kitchen is pretty much what it says it is. It's any kitchen. I mean, I saw those robots from Miso Robotics. They require QR codes in order to grab things in a deep fryer. They cannot really understand the world. They could only work in specific environments. Even within those specific environments, they need QR codes in order to identify whether a certain thing, I don't know what that device you put in a deep fryer. It has like a mesh net and there's like a handle on it, but those things need a QR code. So it cannot really detect where to grab. It doesn't really know its environment. Everything has to be marked out for it. Perhaps in a worse way than self-driving cars, because a self-driving car, you need an active sensor. You need LiDAR for it to work. It cannot use passive photons, which is what humans do. We take in light from the environment and focus it upon the retina. People who have myopia or presbyopia, they need a corrective lens so it could land on the retina instead of it being distorted and out of focus. But a self-driving car, there needs to be active illumination. So it cannot passively. So the environment has to be marked out by, in this case, QR codes. While for a self-driving car, it needs LiDAR. I think that's enough for. I don't think Ukraine is going to sell their bridge. I mean, it may do it in 2025, but I don't think Russia's going to make any major advances. I don't want to talk about that. Self-driving car bet. Tesla. I think Elon Musk is all hype, no talk. I mean, all talk, all hype. And he's been talking about self-driving cars, and I don't think it says, will Tesla be the first company with 1 million Society of Automotive Engineers? It used to stand for that. It doesn't stand for that anymore. With level 4 autonomy on 90% of public roads. That means if you have sexual intercourse right now and you sire a child, that means that if you have a Tesla, your child probably wouldn't need to drive because the self-driving car is level 4. And so right now, I mean, this is by 2037. So yeah. So yeah, if this resolves positively, but I think self-driving cars is very complicated. Hypersonic travel, I only put 2%. It's like I think a Concorde was able to do it under 3 hours. But of course, if you do use a map of England, it has to go over land, so it cannot go supersonic over that part. If it goes to London. I'm not gonna say anything about Haiti. I think this may be optimistic on my part. The community, interestingly, bet the community prediction with like 12 predictors. It said that the route, California high-speed rail would be, you'll be able to use California high-speed rail to go from San Francisco to Anaheim and vice versa in 2050. But so the community is more optimistic, even though there's more predictors here. It's more optimistic about the operation of a hyperloop. And Elon Musk, I think the Hyperloop company there's like a separate Elon Musk company for Hyperloop or the Virgin Hyperloop company that like went defunct. This prediction, I should skip more predictions so I could go through this faster. I think I'm optimistic. I'm not really adjusting this. Maybe this is an optimistic prediction. I've been moving the prediction upward. I've been sliding it. I've been pushing it out because the interquartile range was 2025, and it was 2026 there, and then if I read more information, I may sort of adjust it upward, but maybe I'm buying into all this stuff from people who said that renewable energy is, the prices are crashing really fast, and that there's record deployments in like China and in the US of this. But to answer this question, I think you have to split the world into two. You have to split it into developed countries and developing countries. Developed countries they consume a lot more energy. They also have a lot more greenhouse emissions, but they're wealthier, so they could afford to be early adopters. So you could get greenhouse emission reduction by ceteris paribus, all else being equal. You could reduce carbon dioxide emissions by simply decarbonizing developed countries, by decarbonizing, yes. But also that's also counteracted by developing countries. If fossil fuels will be the cheapest option to develop, the cheapest way to generate energy to like power things like appliances such as refrigerators and air conditioners, and maybe electric cars. If fossil fuels, or maybe electric cars would be expensive. So, but if fossil fuels are the most economic way to generate power, then if they increase their power consumption, then the CO2, it would increase CO2, all else being equal. So essentially the point here is whether the decarbonization of developing countries would cancel out the increasing greenhouse emissions of developing countries, or you could alternatively put a crash scenario where it would ultimately be cheaper for developing countries to deploy solar powers or things like wind or whatever. Well, it's solar to wind. That's the paradigm of the decades. You're not going to build fusion reactors within, at least for the next 3 decades. You're not going to have an operating fusion reactor. So solar, wind, and batteries are the way to go. Solar, wind, and batteries are the way to go. What else? I haven't never thought about this, but that's when. Yeah, there's also an article that I've read about in Nigeria. It says that, what's that article called? Generator is a policy failure. I think the title is enough to sort of demonstrate it, but the sort of the outline here is that in sub-Saharan Africa, the power grid is unreliable. This article specifically argues that power has been subsidized at below market rates, so there's less of an incentive for utilities to invest in power generating equipment because they have to supply the market at below market rates for power, so they can't make much of a profit. Let's ignore that policy question. But the thing is that the bottom line here is that they're using generators. They're using diesel generators. If it's solar power, I don't believe this line that solar power is cheaper than, that renewables are cheaper than fossil fuels. Because if it were, these people would just be buying solar panels. It would be us buying solar panels and batteries. But no, people in sub-Saharan Africa, people in Nigeria, they're buying they're buying diesel generators. So I don't believe that right now that fossil fuel, that renewable energy is cheaper than fossil fuels. Because if it were, they'll be buying solar panels en masse. But they're not. But there's a common line. There's a common line saying that renewable energy is cheaper than fossil fuels. Well, I think, when was this article published? Yeah, it's published right here. So as of 2023, since they're using diesel generators, unless the people in Africa are really stupid or irrational, and there's some people who do believe that, such as this goon here named Richard Lynn. I'm not going to go into a Wikipedia article. Unless they're really stupid, I don't think renewable energy is cheaper than is cheaper than fossil fuel. Yeah, that's my sort of rant about this prediction. I think it's worth spending time doing that. Spend 5 minutes on that. No quantum computer. This is a startup. Do you think a startup would have a quantum computer by 2025? It requires a miracle. I'll briefly go into this because I essentially predicted the prices would be higher in 2030. I only made that data point. I didn't make things there. I don't think renewable energy is going to be that cheap. I don't think the prices would drop that much if we assume a greater deployment in renewable energy, especially solar power, because let's say if you're replacing a natural gas plant or a coal plant, the coal plant's really cheap because it has been amortized for many years, while you have to initially pay the capital to put up a solar plant, and also there's like things like batteries or whatever, and then also that point that I ranted about is that fossil fuels are not, that renewable energy is not necessarily cheaper than fossil fuels, perhaps various reasons. But yeah, reason number one that I mentioned here in this window is that the amortization. If they're deployed, they're going to be new, and they have been amortized because they haven't been active. They haven't reached that point where it's able to pay for itself. And besides, solar power could only generate power during the day, so you have to spend additional money for batteries, which may increase the levelized cost of electricity. And also, electricity demand would go up if there's going to be more electric cars deployed, or if we're going to electrify heating using heat pumps instead of natural gas. So I'm not that optimistic about price drops. A fun bet. I mean, I didn't bet on everything, but I bet a 1% chance. I bet a 1% chance on Honolulu, 1% chance in Anchorage for an NBA expansion, 7% chance in Mexico City. I think the logistics is hard, but the payoff of having a team in the foreign market would be worth it. I bet 3% on Louisville because, I mean, Nashville and Louisville are close to each other, so there may be some sort of cannibalization there. Let's have a second market in Canada, I guess. And I didn't make any other things. I mean, I don't know. The Detroit Pistons thing. I could be wrong. I'm not really. This is essentially saying whether any NATO government would, what do you call it? Any government any investigation on behalf of a NATO government would conclude that the U.S. blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. No, they're not going to do that. What is this? I mean, I think this is very interesting. I could rant about my view about technology here. Well, the summary of this question is whether generative AI in a short time frame would automate white-collar labor. And I mean, of course, I'm not going to go into how the prediction is going to be resolved, but it talked about a certain by the Bureau of Labor Statistics of how certain, it says whether employment in these categories would fall. And I bet not. I mean, I think there's some people who, you should read this article. I'm not reading it. I want to get through this quickly, but he says the largest 2-point drop in white-collar jobs over the past 30 years is 0.8%. So it's not going to be 10%. The largest 2-year drop is 0.8%. So what do you call it? White-collar jobs are a fairly stable portion of the economy unless there's some sort of breakthrough in artificial intelligence and with generative AI. What is this? I mean, again, briefness, succinctness here. Launch a commercial product is a public benefit corporation. Optical computing. So do you think some company will be able to ship a product? Will be able to ship a product that makes optical computers. Optical computers they're always 10 years away. I mean, eventually they may break through. I just think it's a miracle in order for that to resolve positively. You don't need 30 megaton weapons. I put a low number here. I'm not going to go into my predictions here, but I think I'm betting against the community. I'm betting that the solar deployment worldwide would be lower than it says in terawatt hours. Yeah, terawatt hours of electricity. I'll go into that later. I want to close that. Okay. No, that requires a miracle. I need to look into that prediction. Maybe they'll use the BP thing. I don't know if I got the units right. No. I posted something about here. I simply said that the recall of the drug, the withdrawal is unlikely because because it's already been approved, and because I don't think that even if there's like suicide concerns or things like gastroparesis, I think that could just be put on a black box instead of it being withdrawn. And it's not fast-tracked or put up for accelerated approval. So I think that if there's any adverse effects like increased cancer rate, it'll probably show up by now. So that's why I'm putting a 2% chance. It's not. Yeah, I use a particular. What is it? It's a phosphoinositol 3 kinase inhibitor. That's what that drug does. You may not. It doesn't matter what that is, but but essentially that drug is fast-tracked because it treats marginal zone lymphoma and follicular lymphoma with those genes. But it has been withdrawn because of an increased risk of death, like what it says there, and because there was benefits, but it has been fast tracked, so it's not like it's an oncology thing. Nope. I made this question up. I didn't approve that shit. I'm gonna go back to Okay, I'm back. So where was I? This is a very important question. My comment here is largely that I cannot provide like any particular insight as to whether an AI is able to win this, but I said that I assume I perused the website, so I really think the competitions are legitimate. It's like AI winning a Go format tournament or placing very highly. I think it's on that level. If it's able to compete with human beings and interact with them, and it's sort of like Jeopardy. I also said, but if it's able to I was questioning about what does it mean if it could actually win? Could it actually automate several coding jobs? Because software developers are highly paid, and if you're able to automate that, maybe there'll be positive economic impacts. It's very significant if it's able to take highly skilled labor, if it's able to automate that. But I'm betting that unless it's some sort of fluke, I'm betting it's not going to happen. I bet the U.S. is going to grow not grow faster, but it's going to grow fast enough so that China can't overtake it, and I think we'll reach some sort of diminishing returns there. No. Not going to say anything. I don't know anything about Europa except that there's probably an ocean down there. The land spacecraft on Europa. There's something called the Europa Clipper, but that's gonna launch, I think, in 2025 or maybe this year. I don't remember, but it's supposed to take pictures of Europa. No, they don't live in Lake Vostok because that lake is covered with ice, so there's only chemoautotrophs that will be the primary producers, and I don't think chemoautotrophs could support an environment that has a bony fish, not bony fish, but yeah, bony they can have any chordate fish, any chordates there. No, requires a miracle. There's no extraterrestrial. There's no message. It requires an extraordinary degree of cooperation between Russia and the United States. A geopolitical turn. There's no life on Mars. I think life in the universe is a miracle, or it's an extremely low probability event. I believe we're the only life in the Milky Way. Yeah, we're the only life. I believe we're the only life in the Milky Way. So, did I make any snarky comments? No. I think I may be optimistic. No, fusion Fusion is fusion. I mean, fusion is generating electric power through fusion. No, that requires a miracle. No. No, I'm skeptical of Elon Musk. I'll just go here just so people could... This is some collab received 14 million. Is it this about HIV or... This is a vaccine for HIV. I didn't post anything here. I was thinking about the flu. I don't think there's going to be a vaccine for HIV. One. No. I only bet the Detroit Pistons aren't going to make it. I didn't contribute anything aside from betting the Detroit Pistons aren't going to make the playoffs. No. Here's my remark. What the? Oh yeah. I sort of ridiculed the possibility of a room temperature superconductor as a miracle. I mean, if you say that someone is resurrected from the dead, like some random person, I believe it's just as possible. I believe having a room temperature superconductor used in for commercial use by 2025 is a miracle. It's almost as unbelievable as hearing someone being resurrected from the dead. So it's a miracle, and I don't think it's a miracle. If you say that, you'll be met with like incredulity from me. The same. I said before that I think this is an example of me being optimistic. I don't think it'll be done by 2076, but I don't have any need to change the prediction. I guess this is a prediction where I want to blab about. What are my predictions? Oh yeah, Q psi, which is simply the Q value of the energy inputted into the plasma versus the yield in energy. Which that yield energy also includes includes neutrons. But for the deuterium-tritium reaction, 80% of the energy is released in neutrons. But fortunately, unlike neutrinos, fortunately or unfortunately. Fortunately, you could extract that energy by having like a breeder blanket, and also having some fluid cooling that blanket, and by having that fluid cool the blanket, that fluid heats up and it could power a steam turbine. It's just through the neutrons hitting it. But yeah, if I want to blab about this, I would say that my framework is that all the fusion startups are going to fail. They're not going to generate power. ITER is the best way. ITER is the way. It'll be the first one to do this, but we live in a law where Murphy's Law is perpetually active. Murphy's Law is in place. There's going to be many delays. I even think that this is an overestimate. I mean, that this is an optimistic prediction. Q wall plug is that it takes energy to like heat the plasma. So essentially, you're saying that you generate more energy. The plasma generates more energy. The fusion of the plasma generates more energy than the amount of power you draw from the grid to heat it up. So I think that probably corresponds to a Q equals 6 or whatever. I think I said something here. I copied what Wikipedia says. Yeah, I think ITER. Yeah, like I said, my sort of conservative estimate is probably what ITER says it will be per you just add 1 year because of Murphy's Law. I don't know if I could say anything. Nah. He's a high school player. I used a pretty low number. What fraction of habitable lives does any form of life emerge? Yeah, it'll be like Pokemon Showdown. It has been around for like a decade. Sustainable. Sustainable means that it's able to generate its own energy. So I think that by this definition, places like Iqaluit or Cambridge Bay in Victoria Island in Victoria Island's in Canada. Those are like really desolate hamlets that have at most like 1,000 people. But Iqaluit has like 8,000. But But I don't think Cal is not self-sustaining because it requires like shipments of food. I don't think you can do anything from that. I mean, could you just? I don't know if you could even eat fish to feed like 8,000 people. No. Did I put anything here? Yeah, I compared it. I mean, I said, yeah, 2% is an overestimate because I don't think Elon Musk is going to sacrifice his comfort to go on a trip to Mars. So essentially going to Mars for any person, I would say, for someone like Elon Musk, I said that it has to be as comfortable as working and living in a Ohio-class submarine, and a Ohio-class submarine launched ballistic missile submarine. And provides some links to saying how because in order to actually go into space, to like travel, you need life support systems, and those things require lots of mass. And in order, so I think you need to have some sort of technical breakthrough, like nuclear rocketry, or like some sort of ion engine. I don't think using ordinary chemical rocketry would be enough because that limits the weight of the payload because you have to also lift up the fuel too. No, I don't think he's that good. Yeah, it went up to 29%. I'm trying to hurry up here. No. You're not going to have self-driving cars in Las Vegas by Memorial Day 2024. I could discuss that. I honestly don't know. Maybe this is being optimistic, but it's like 9 more years before they're able to get a significant share of the global semiconductor market. But 20%, you could get much of the global south. Maybe I'll just highlight what someone else said here. I copied what he said. Yeah, he says that if there's one company that's able to get 2/3 of the Chinese domestic market, you'll be able to build that. Levelized cost, I mean, I think it's going to be higher than that. No. It says not whether there is, whether the mainstream media would report it. No. There's like a significant divergence in predictions. A von Neumann probe, I'm betting that electric vehicles will not be deployed rapidly enough. Arbitrage. I don't think the ICC would indict Benjamin Netanyahu. I still think this is probably stupid. I made a Yu-Gi-Oh related comment here. Yeah, see? I readjusted my prediction because 2% is very high for these things to actually exist. These are the cryptids that are defined. These are the exclusive cryptids. I mean, there could be other cryptids that exist but won't fall into the parameters of that. There's less than a 2% chance of any of these things existing. So 2% is an overestimate. So I adjusted it to 0.6. Maybe it's an impossible world. 1%. I think the US carriers are invincible. Proton decay. I don't know if I can say anything about that. Andrew Tate. Phoenix. There's no life outside the solar system. I said that before. I'm optimistic. What is it? Small molecule. Clinical trials usually fail, so 0. What? Why did I put 1%? I'm gonna readjust that. No fucking way it's gonna happen. Yeah, that's my prediction. Nope. I wasted my breath on other things, but this is the prediction. This is my prediction. Because total factor productivity. This is the Robert Gordon bet. I mean, I just put the long bits. Oh, here it is. Here's the link. Well, I had to have enough stamina to provide a plausible definition of total factor productivity. I think the brief thing is that in order to get a unit of economic output, you need to input capital and labor. So if you have higher total factor economic productivity, you could input less labor or capital in order to generate that unit of productivity. So to generate a unit of productivity, which in the U.S., which most people would measure as in GDP or GDP purchasing power parity. So I mean, an example of, let's say, AI of robotics increasing productivity is that, let's say that some company has a bunch of robots that are very cheap to maintain. At least they're cheaper than paying for health insurance for a human being, and they're able to make hamburgers. And those robots cost, like, let's say $20,000, which I think is probably cheaper than a minimum wage labor or a going rate of labor in California or whatever. If it's able to make those robots for such a small price, such as $20,000, you increase total factor productivity because you need less labor and you need less capital in order to make the same amount of hamburgers. I mean, that's one sort of example. So again, total productivity labor is the amount of is a measure of efficiency. It's how much capital you need in order to generate 1 unit of productivity, 1 unit of economic output. So the less capital, the less labor you need, the higher the degree of productivity. So steam engines, like, for instance, would increase total factor productivity, or like computing power in like certain tasks. So, but yeah, Robert Gordon, yeah, blah blah blah. I think I said enough. Robert Gordon says, I mean, here's his historiography. It's really high, like in this period from 1948 to 1972. It's sort of stagnated. There's like a .com boom, and then it just stagnated after 2010. And that's because I think we've reached diminishing returns. I mean, I don't think the gig economy, I don't think smartphones have increased total factor productivity. The economics, the statistics has said that. So I'm a techno-pessimist. So I believe that I'm a techno-pessimist. So I believe that the technological advances that are currently in the pipeline aren't going to enhance economic productivity. And much of the things that, that generative AI is going to take over or disrupt aren't really that lucrative. I mean, someone like Eric Hoyle, he cited in an article, he says that, I mean, with Amazon Mechanical Turk, that does certain things that generative AI does, but the people who are Amazon Mechanical Turk don't only get paid like $1 or $2 an hour, so disrupting that is not really that lucrative. And illustrators disrupting that, they don't make that much money, so it's not really disruptive. But if you disrupt a highly paid software developer, that would be a major economic boom, because you're able to produce software with, like I said, with fewer inputs of labor, fewer inputs of highly skilled labor. So we'd be able to replace a software developer with an AI would increase total factor productivity. But I don't think it would actually be significantly deployed. Yeah, also illustrators. I mean, if you're doing it for a blog, you're not really. But yeah, this is it. You're not going to get. It's not going to have a major macroeconomic impact. Maybe if self-driving. I think if robotics, if they're able to actually do tasks that are highly complex and require the interaction of other human beings, if something that requires like correct assembly, like making sandwich or sorting pills in a pharmacy, if robots are able to do that, it would generate, it would increase total factor productivity. But I don't think robots are going to do things like pick pieces of fruit in like the next 10 years. Yeah, anyway, yeah. With that prediction, my prediction is higher than that. than the community prediction because I don't think AI is gonna make people unemployed. You're still gonna need human labor. What's this? I mean, I'm not going to go into a rant about that, but this is I think in gigawatts. I'm sort of confused here. So 11 point, yeah. It says how much capacity will be installed in. I think it's in gigawatts. The other question says how many terawatt hours of. I mean, it seems like that if it's only like a few terawatt hours, it would be too low. I mean, if that's like the overall capacity, but terawatt hours is a unit of energy. Well, terawatts is a unit of power. I put 85%. I'm start getting tired here. Yeah, this is an interesting bet. That's something I want to go over. Tired. I need to try to go to the nines instead of getting pulled from the sixth. So, oh yeah, yeah. I don't know if you could read through my comments. What I'm predicting essentially, I think is optimistic. Maybe Moore's law would crash. Like I'm trying to maintain a stamina. Moore's law would crash. Is that in order? I mean, well, this is yeah, yeah. It says the median is 10 to the 18th, which is an exaflop of power. I mean exaflop. Yeah, an exaflop. It says in flop. So yeah, 10 to the 18th is an exaflop. Uh, yeah. So and this is my prediction, which is I said it's less than Avogadro. The community also predicts it's currently predicting this in 20. I'm talking about 2052. So yes, that'll be yeah. I said this is the most. I cited this figure. So if you multiply if you multiply this by 50,000, you would get something. So I'm betting there is a 52,000 fold increase in the top supercomputing computer. This would rough. So yeah, it's just, I said it's roughly sixfold in 5 years. So yeah, essentially that's what I'm betting on. That's what my prediction. We'll have a sixfold increase in in the top supercomputer power in 5 years. I also said that my biggest fear would be like healthcare, because I mean we're allegedly getting better healthcare, but healthcare prices are rising. Some people say that that's not really a bad thing because it means we're wealthy enough to pay for more healthcare. Because if you're wealthy collectively, you're more inclined to spend more on healthcare. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but still that it's not really consolation if you're struggling to pay or whatever. It doesn't negate the fact that there's a with Elon's law. It doesn't negate the fact that there is diminishing returns. Elon's law is it's the observation that it takes more resources, more money to develop drugs. AIs, no, no, no. I want to quote scripture. No, wait, I didn't. Yeah. Uh, what is it? I just look up John 3 for me. Uh, those who would inherit the kingdom or whatever must be born again or something like that. John 3:3. I don't know what it says exactly. Or born from above. I'm betting slower. I think they'll eventually take over. 10% versus 3. Yeah, this is the famous Kurzweil bet with Mitch Kapoor about whether it would pass a Turing test. I'm saying it's just only a 22% chance of that happening. I'm gonna go, I'm gonna quit. Oh wait, yeah, I think you should know that. I'll just no robots can't pick fruit. They can't. if you go to a, what do you call it? If you go to an orchard in Washington or in California, you're not going to see robots picking apples or picking strawberries. It's really too hard. I'm going to quote the Bible here. What is it? The workers are few. The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. So Matthew 9. Yeah. I just want to share that Bible verse. So yeah, I think that's sort of appropriate for. I don't know. This is not even about McDonald's. This is a question about whether there'll be robots picking fruit. Yeah, there's a labor shortage. Oh, these are all my predictions. I kind of went through it. Gosh. Where's that thing about? Oh, yeah. Think about this for a second. God, I'm tired. I'm tired. Tired talking about the future. I said that I've been shorting AI-based predictions, but when I started making my prediction, it says it was like I predicted it 2040 at 2070. I think AI is not going to be that stagnant. I'm gonna let my prediction ride. So when do you think self-driving cars would be prevalent enough? When do you think it'll be prevalent enough? Probably prevalent enough when California high-speed rail is online. Oh, what's the time of that? California rail. I don't know. I didn't. Did I spell it? I spelled it correctly. I don't know why I did that. Maybe. Oh, here it is. No. I don't know what to say about the Golden State. And California high-speed rail would be so awesome if it's built here. Anyway, congratulations if you were able to make it this far. Peace. I hope your future will be bright. I hope it will be brighter than what I predict it to be. I predict a crappy future, no self-driving cars, no fusion power within the next 10 to 15 years. If you're a Detroit Lions fan, if you're watching this, hopefully they'll win and you won't have a future of more misery. I just saw the game against the Rams. Hopefully, I don't know. Yeah, if you're a Detroit Lions fan, hopefully they'll win, I guess. Or if you're a Detroit Pistons fan, too. At least the Lions have sort of broke some futility for Detroit sports. Unfortunately, they've been able to make the World Series, I think, in 2012 and 2006, but they haven't been able to win. Well, peace. I'm tired.